No, I would always tell him what I was going to do.
Right.
Now, the contest, that was in my notebook for 3 years.
You're referring to, of course, the masturbation contest,
the masturbation contest
on Seinfeld.
Right.
Kramer?
I wouldn't even mention it to Jerry because I thought it was so out of the question that he would ever want to do that show that I never even brought it up. We had a board with all upcoming shows on it.
Yeah.
And the network, after read-throughs, would come in and they go, what's that one? What's that one? And so this one, I said, I'm not even putting it on the board.
Right.
I don't want them to ask about it because I knew that it was something pretty special.
Right.
And then I had worked myself up into another lather where I'm saying, okay, if they don't do the show, I'm quitting.
Larry David's relationship with Seinfeld was always more complicated than casual fans realize. And it was never a case of creative bliss behind the scenes. Even though he co-created the show and helped define an entire generation of TV comedy, Larry spent a stunning amount of time resenting major parts of it, particularly one thing that drove him absolutely up the wall from day one. Larry has said for decades he never viewed Seinfeld as a guaranteed hit. He didn't chase punchlines, didn't care if NBC executives laughed, and didn't trust the sitcom machine to understand it. To Larry, what was funny was often what would horrify a network. Silence, awkwardness, pettiness, endings that made people feel a little worse about humanity. The one thing he thought would ruin everything. From the start, Larry David flat out rejected the idea that a sitcom needed a sentimental ending, a lesson, or even emotional progress. If anything, he suspected the audience was the greatest threat, not because they wouldn't get it, but because the network would panic on their behalf. He despised the pressure to soften, to redeem characters, to wrap things up in a bow. He truly believed the most honest and funniest outcome was often the most uncomfortable one. And that's precisely what Hollywood was trained to reject. NBC notes came early and often. Can the characters be more likable? Can Jerry learn a lesson? Can we inject some heart into the ending? This is the kind of thing that made Larry feel like Seinfeld was actively at risk of being fixed into something he'd never watch himself. A sitcom with hugs and smiles. No hugging, no learning. That wasn't a joke. It was a commandment, a line in the sand. And the wild thing, that wasn't the part NBC objected to most. Larry was certain network TV couldn't be trusted. We tend to look back at Seinfeld as a miracle of creative freedom. Larry saw it more like trench warfare, constant vigilance against any attempt to make the show resemble what people expected from TV. He knew how these things went. Test screenings, to executive panic, to feedback loops, to bad notes, to artistic death. He counted on that. There are stories from people who worked with him that describe Larry sitting in meetings stone-faced, almost daring NBC to cancel the show, rather than let it bend into something dishonest. He truly wanted the option to walk away. It was actual leverage. And yet, the pressure only escalated as the show grew successful. Suddenly, there was merchandising potential syndication deals worth hundreds of millions, public profiles to protect. This was Larry's nightmare scenario, a monster too big to fail, which is why what happened next is astonishing. Larry always had a foot out the door. He didn't care about success if he meant compromise. That exact attitude is precisely what allowed the show to not become the thing he feared. But it also made working on it more painful than most fans could guess.
Thanks to NOLA Mattress for sponsoring this video. NOLA is an award-winning mattress brand known for its cooling technology, exceptional pressure relief, and long-lasting durability. I'm typically a side sleeper and tend to overheat throughout the night, so I chose the best-selling NOLA Evolution mattress. It specifically supports spine alignment for side sleepers and has built-in cooling technology, so it seemed like the perfect fit for me. My mattress arrived rolled up in a box, which was super easy to set up. I just slid it out of the box, and within minutes, it was ready to go. And after my first few nights on this mattress, I couldn't be happier with my choice. I can confidently say I've never slept better. I stay cool all night, and I feel loose and relaxed when I wake up in the morning. Plus, buying online and getting it shipped straight to my door was way easier than going to the store. NOLA is unique because everything is made fresh to order in their Arizona factory. There's no fiberglass, no harmful chemicals, and zero off-gassing. Just clean, safe sleep. Plus, every mattress ships free and comes with a 120-night sleep trial and a limited lifetime warranty. They even offer financing if you need it. I love my NOLA mattress, and I think you would love one too. If you're looking for a new bed, head to nolamattress.com/faxverse and use the code FAXVERSE to get an extra $50 off your NOLA mattress. This is an additional discount on top of whatever is already being offered on the site, so go check it out while you can. And after you check out, you can help out our channel by telling them that I sent you in their post-purchase survey. Thanks again to NOLA Mattress for sponsoring this video, and don't forget to go to nolamattress.com/factsverse and use the code FACTSVERSE for $50 off your NOLA mattress.
The side effect: he was miserable while making a masterpiece. The more successful the show became, the more Larry David felt trapped by it. The irony is astonishing. A man who hated TV convention created the single most successful sitcom of the 90s, and it nearly broke him. He has said openly he never enjoyed being responsible for something that needed to be protected every second from being bland. The greater the praise, the bigger the target, and the more exhausted Larry became trying to hold the lawn. Ted Danson, Larry's oldest comedy sparring partner, once remarked on how unrelenting Larry's standards were, in a way that was both affectionate and exasperated. Larry is the most singularly stubborn human being I have ever met in my life. By season 7, he simply couldn't carry it anymore. Larry famously quit before the final 2 seasons, not because he was out of ideas, but because he was out of tolerance. What the network wanted and why Larry refused. To Larry David, the biggest threat to Seinfeld was that success would corner it into delivering emotional satisfaction. Executives love resolution. Audiences are conditioned to expect redemption. Larry hated those instincts in equal measure. He believed people don't change, life doesn't tie itself up, and comedy dies the moment it tries to flatter the viewer. NBC never stopped looking for ways to soften the tone. As ratings climbed, advertisers wanted something friendlier. Public image matters, awards matter. Larry didn't care about any of that at all. He wasn't trying to be edgy, he was trying to be accurate to his worldview. This is why writing Seinfeld became so psychologically draining for him. He wasn't just creating jokes, he was protecting tone. The breaking point. If any one thing pushed Larry out the door by season 7, it was scale. The moment Seinfeld crossed from cult hit to cultural phenomenon, something shifted. Suddenly, the conversation was about protecting reputation, staying number 1, preserving brand legacy. It was the exact opposite of how Larry thought comedy should operate. The show wasn't supposed to carry responsibility, the characters weren't supposed to grow. Nothing was supposed to be precious. What bothered him wasn't fame, it was expectation. A show that starts out trying to do something odd and specific becomes pressured to become broad and safe the second it's successful. And Larry wanted no part of that transformation. He didn't want to make the number 1 sitcom in America. He wanted to make the weird show he and Jerry thought was funny in private. Why he walked away. Larry David's exit wasn't a dramatic blow-up. It was the quiet relief of someone escaping inevitability. He had done the impossible. He'd kept the network from sanding the edges off for 7 seasons. But every year was harder than the last, and he knew the moment he relaxed, the show would slowly mutate into the exact kind of sitcom he swore it would never resemble. So he quit, not out of failure, but self-preservation. The most revealing part, he didn't spend years grieving or looking back with sentimentality. He left and immediately found clarity. Curb Your Enthusiasm, the show he built afterward, was explicitly designed to eliminate everything he hated. No network notes, no studio audience, no stakes beyond his personal annoyance. Total freedom from the machine that almost reshaped Seinfeld against his will. And to this day, he said that walking away was one of the decisions he's proudest of, because staying would have meant surrender. The show that was never meant to comfort you. What makes Larry David's animosity towards traditional sitcom structure so fascinating is it wasn't rebellious purely for the sake of rebellion. He genuinely believed that portraying life as emotionally neat and morally instructive was dishonest, and therefore unfunny. Seinfeld wasn't meant to make you feel good, it was meant to make you nod in dark recognition. That's why episodes ended mid-disaster, why characters ruined their own lives and didn't learn a thing, why no apology was ever sincere. Larry saw banality and selfishness as the natural resting state of existence, and he refused to contaminate that worldview by pretending anyone grows. The paradox of Larry's genius. The tragic twist is that the very thing that made Seinfeld culturally revolutionary, Larry's refusal to bend, is also what made the process of making it borderline unbearable for him. He wasn't a television operator, he wasn't wired for executive diplomacy, brand management, test audience data, or the marathon pace of weekly network production. He was built for bursts of obsessive accuracy, not long-term creative bureaucracy. And yet, the reason Seinfeld remains iconic is precisely because Larry David was a purist who never allowed it to drift into comfort comedy. A tortured perfectionist is rarely a happy one, which is why his career after Seinfeld makes sense, not just as a next act, but as an escape. The freedom he was chasing all along. Seinfeld made him famous, and Curb made him free. It is, in every way, the show he would have made from the beginning if there were no systems to fight, no executives or advertisers, no character arcs to protect. Just awkwardness, unsentimentally observed, with no obligation to reward the viewer for their time. And the result is telling. Larry didn't just tolerate making Curb, he actively enjoys it. He thrives inside it. He's relaxed there in a way he never was on Seinfeld. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Seinfeld would have been the same cultural phenomenon if Larry David had stayed beyond season 7? Let us know in the comments section below.